both here at City Hall. So in case anybody wishes to watch the meeting from the screen that we have set up in the lobby and provide public comments. So I'd like to welcome you and call to order the June 25th Port Orchard City Council regular meeting. And also remind us of our guiding principles and the actions that we are about to take. Are we raising the bar in all of our actions? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is the decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? And I've got a flag here, so I'm gonna see if I can get it to show, and maybe not. I don't know. I put it in front of my face, I guess. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This reminds me of a time that I'd rather not ever repeat when we were in COVID. So this is a much better occasion. All right, we have a published agenda for this evening, and I'm looking for someone to potentially remove the where is it on the business item? The county would like some time to review the appraisal and the documents. So they're asking that we remove the street vacation from this evening's business. It'll likely come back. So Mark, Councilmember Trenary, do you wish to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove business item 7A at this time.
Second.
Well, I heard a whole bunch of seconds. I think I'll give it to Councilmember Fenton. So we have a motion by Councilmember Trenary and a second by Councilmember Fenton to remove item A, which is the street vacation related to the county campus. And it's just to give the county additional time to review the appraisal documents and the other related documents. Hopefully it'll be back before us at our next council meeting. But we felt it was important to give them adequate time to review these documents. So all in favor of removing that, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that has been removed from the business items. Councilmember Rosa Pepe, do you have a question? I see your hand raised.
No, I was just going to move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, look at that. Before that action happens, are there any other proposed amendments? Okay, hearing none, then there's a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, a second by Councilmember Diener to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been set for this evening. We're to our first citizen comment period. Brandy, is there anyone online or anybody in the lobby wishing to provide comment?
No members of the public are in person or online.
All right, so I will close the first citizen comment period. Maybe we'll get some visitors in this later in the meeting. We have a published consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Councilmember Trenary?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Seconded.
We have a motion by Councilmember Trenary, a second by Councilmember Morrissey to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been set for this evening. We don't have a public hearing. We do have two remaining business items, first of which is adoption of an ordinance amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget, including Exhibit A. And Mr. Crocker, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Business item 7A, the City of Port Orchard's biennial budget for 2023-24 is written to capture revenue and expenses over the fiscal period. During the biennial period, changes to the budget in both revenue and expenditures need to be recognized by a budget amendment. By this ordinance, the City Council would amend the 23-24 biennial budget as adopted by ordinance 4622, and amended by ordinances 1823, 2022-23, 29-23, 39-23, and 8-24, including changes to Exhibit A, which identifies salary and personnel positions. I did want to kind of walk through over the high level. I did provide a detail both in the staff report as well as an income statement as an attachment to the budget amendment. And at a higher level, I just kind of want to briefly touch on the significance of the amendments. And I kind of group these into three different categories. One would be the significant impacts, meaning their kind of dollars are kind of larger in nature, minor adjustments, and then just really cleanup items that I kind of always come back to with the budget amendment. The first one is significant impacts of the budget amendment. This budget amendment provides additional funding for transportation, in particular for Pottery Avenue, the non-motorized project that is under construction, and we expect completion by the fall of 2024. And this budget amendment provides for full funding of that project. Additional funding for transportation of the Salmonberry Blueberry roundabout. Again, this is for the design phase. In our last council meeting, council gave direction to go forward and include this amendment into the budget amendment. It provides additional funding for parks, for Givens Park in particular, to complete that project again in 2024. Additional funding for water for Melcher Pump Station to complete that project in 2024. Additional funding for water to complete the AMI smart meter implementation, including purchase of additional radio attachments, as we have a lot of meters out there and we're continuing to slowly add to our system. That project is progressing very well. Another significant impact to the budget is adding 1 FTE for civil engineering. Now, in the minor adjustments category, we have additional funding for financial software, which will improve our ability to track and manage our debt, service payments, our lease payments, as well as our software subscriptions, as the state has required additional reporting for those three elements. It has become a drain on staff time, and we are exploring cheap, efficient software solutions. It provides additional funding for the ER&R fund to provide a vehicle for the mechanics. This would allow them to go into the field and service vehicles in our fleet, which they currently do not have the ability to do. Additional funding for the ER&R fund to provide for a vehicle for the police department. The police department had one vehicle die on us early. That vehicle was set to replace next year in 2025. And since it has died early, I say died, but it has some major malfunctions, which we have decided not to repair because it was due for replacement in the next fiscal year. So rather than replace it next year, we are seeking to move that replacement up into 2024. Currently, this budget amendment provides for additional funding of a different type of vehicle for the Public Works Department for their water, provides to add a F-350 flatbed, and we anticipate this will improve crew efficiency as well as project management. I would have one larger truck, which would take on more equipment to a job site, and would have a truck that would haul all the crew. So you'd really have two trucks showing up to the job site, one with all the equipment and one with the crew. Currently, we don't have that type of a vehicle, that large enough vehicle to make that work. So we are modifying our fleet to allow for better use of our human resources as well as our equipment. It also has an additional funding request for a storm pond mower and equipment. And again, this would be funded out of a grant, a stormwater capacity grant that the city has received. With all these ER&R purchases, I think it's important to note that we are seeking the authorization to make the purchases. But in our experience, there is a long lag between ordering a vehicle and actually receiving and paying for it. So while we might have the authority to move forward now to purchase the vehicles, by the time we place the order, we might not receive it till the next biennial period, maybe in the first quarter of 2025. So we're trying to get on top of these ER&R equipment needs. And then lastly, there's a category I like to call it cleanup budget items. Generally, these are things, projects that have been finally completed, contracts that the council's already awarded, and so I'm coming in behind and just providing the budget authority to fully fund those contracts and projects. And one was for the Public Works Shop, Schedule D, needed a little bit more funding to fully fund that project out of the 302 fund. And then truing up funding and expense authority for the South Sydney Sewer Lift Station. That's the Ruby Lift Station. We already have expenditure authority in there of up to 700,000. We're adding an additional 50, and then we're providing the revenue, which is already coming in with the ILA with Kitsap County. So again, that classifies as a cleanup item, as we already have an ILA in place with CSAP Transit, excuse me, for the funding. And we have some expense authority, but it wasn't up to full funding provided. So with that, I would move down below, and staff would recommend that we approve the budget amendment as provided.
Councilmember Morrissey,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance amending the 23-24 biennial budget for the city of Port Orchard.
Second.
okay, motion by Councilmember Morrissey, a second by Councilmember Fenton. I know there's a lot of information here. I know we've talked about it at the Finance Committee, and you know, I just want to make sure all your questions are answered. So if you have any, Noah's here to provide those answers. Councilmember Diener, go ahead.
So the mechanics van it's just a van with tools. It's not a service truck in terms of fluids and all that. Is that
Correct.
is that-
Yeah. What we
Okay.
looked at is we currently, so I think it's in modification to the fleet. So we have currently the authority to replace an F-150 truck. When we sat down with Public Works and looked at their needs growing, they said, hey, the mechanics would really actually prefer a van that could house more of their tools so that they can go on the side. The truck's not going to do what they need it to do.
Do we have a field service truck that goes out and replaces fluids and greases equipment on site and all that?
No, we don't typically have construction sites like that. You know, we mobilize from the shop and run out to a job.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I know what the type of vehicle you're referring to. This is really just intended, they're out on a job site,
Some
something breaks, versus having to send one of the big trucks out to pick up that
Bring it
piece of
back.
equipment, haul it back to the shop to work on it. If it's something simple, they're going to be able to drive out and work on things in the field.
Yeah, got it.
Councilmember Rose Pepe?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, this is for Councilmember Trineri as the head of the Finance Committee. Do you have anything to add to this or general discussion? Most of these are pretty straightforward that we've talked about before, but I was just interested if the Finance Committee had any specifics that you wanted to bring up.
No, and thank you for recognizing that, Jay, but we did have reviewed this fairly thoroughly and answered our questions at the Finance Committee. So I'm very comfortable with moving forward with this.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ward?
Do we have a spill response vehicle in our fleet?
I don't believe we have one specifically dedicated to that. And then where's Dennis? Go ahead, Dennis.
So we do have spill response kits in our vehicles. We do not have a dedicated response
Sure.
vehicle.
Okay, so every vehicle carries adequate amount. I mean, not everyone's going to carry something for a major concern, but everyone carries basically a spill response kit, I guess.
That should be a requirement, and I'm going to verify every vehicle has them. But my anticipated answer is that every crew that's out in the field would have a spill response kit.
Sure. Perfect.
Okay, Councilmember Morrissey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I might add the additional answer to Jay's question from Chair Trineri was the one thing we didn't talk about at Finance Committee, we talked about as a council last week. Was that pottery, Noah, that when we made that? Because that was done after the committee.
There was salmonberry, blueberry.
Salmonberry, blueberry. I couldn't remember which one, and I rolled the dice and got it wrong. So, but we all came to a conclusion on that last week.
Yeah, that's correct. It's just giving the authority. Contract still has to come back before the full council in a coming meeting. Councilmember Rosa Pepe?
Sorry, I must have hit the wrong button. I apologize.
That's okay. All right. Further questions?
And
All
I
right.
guess I did want to mention, Mayor, again, for the sake of the public, that yes, this did go to Finance Committee, and we did go in that great detail on June 11th. If anyone cares to go watch that video, we did discuss it briefly tonight at the Transportation Committee. And I did want to point out that we did get really good feedback from the Finance Committee. So in the income statement, you'll notice that I kind of detailed out very specifically by fund the impact. that's in this budget amendment. So I hope that makes it a little easier to understand what we are proposing.
Yeah, and where the money's coming from. All right, you'll be voting on adoption of an ordinance amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget, including Exhibit A. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes unanimously. We're on to our last business item, which is adoption of a resolution establishing an investment policy.
Thank you, Mayor. Business item 7B now, adoption of a resolution establishing investment policy. The city of Portland has grown in all areas of its operations, including cash and investment balances. Although the city has utilized best practices for maintaining funds, the city desires an investment policy to enable the city to better manage its investments and provide better value to the citizens. Staff have prepared the policy, which sets the parameters by which staff will manage an investment portfolio. Consistent with the policy, the city would invest public funds in a manner which provides the maximum security with a market rate of return while meeting daily cash flow requirements while still conforming to federal, state statutes and other legal requirements. We did meet with the Finance Committee on June 11th and discussed and reviewed the full investment policy. And specifically, the Finance Committee focused on the key investment objectives, which are safety, which are in order of safety. Safety of principle is the primary objective of the city. Investments shall be undertaken in a manner that seeks to ensure preservation of capital in the overall portfolio. Secondly, liquidity. The investment portfolio will remain liquid to enable the city to meet all cash requirements that might be reasonably anticipated. And then lastly, return on investment or yield. The investment portfolio will be structured with the objective of obtaining a market rate of return throughout the budgetary and economic cycles. Furthermore, staff wanted to note that the policy has been developed using best practice templates from accredited organizations such as the Governmental Finance Officers Association, the Washington Public Treasurers Association, and Municipal Research Services Center, as well as discussing with our colleagues and neighboring jurisdictions. With that, staff would recommend approval of the resolution adopting an investment policy.
Councilmember Ward.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution approving the investment policy for the city.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Warden, a second by Councilmember Diener. I know this item was spoke to at length and discussed thoroughly at the Finance Committee also. Councilmember Diener.
Well, I was a little surprised to learn that we didn't have a policy directive in place. What had we been relying on for sound investments prior?
Yeah, so we had a reference in our kind of finance policy document, but we didn't have a whole separate policy, which this is. So we have authority and we have been utilizing the Kitsap County Investment Pool for our investing, as well as the local government investment pool managed by the State Treasurer's Office. So up to this point, we've been in very liquid pools, short-term pools managed by the county, as well as the State Treasurer's Office. With this policy, gives us a little more flexibility to go a little bit further out in our portfolio as far as managing our maturities. Both those pools are designed to be very liquid, meaning same-day cash. And in this interest rate environment where the commentary is there's potential rate cuts in the future, as those rate cuts occur, because we are in the short-term pools, our investment returns would fall precipitously with those cuts. So we would like the flexibility to look a little bit further out, kind of lock in some of these good maturities now and balance our portfolio out a little bit.
So is there a threshold by which cities or maybe smaller counties look at an investment policy like this, or is this just something we've decided is the right time for us?
Yeah, we've been talking about it actually for a few years now. It's just really been about priorities and get into the body of work. And so we've slowly chipped away over it over the last 6 months. And I think I've commented with the mayor as far as my work plan every year is to get to this investment policy. So to the staff, it's not brand new. We've been working on it, trying to gather the information we need, talk to the right folks, look at the right templates, kind of work behind the scenes to make sure that we feel comfortable moving forward. And the prior Finance Committee also recognized that in the prior biennium that it made sense to move forward with an investment policy of our own.
And after over the last 4 to 6 years, those of you that have been on the council for a while, have recognized that we have increased our reserve requirements. We're growing as a city, so then in turn, our reserves are growing. And so we're getting some significant dollar sums sitting in completely liquid accounts that aren't things that we need readily available. We need them for that rainy day or that emergency. But we don't need to have all of the cash that we're holding for reserves, in liquid form.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Morrissey, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Crocker, I can't remember if I asked this during committee or not. I assume Ms. Archer's reviewed this as well.
Yes, yeah. Ms. Archer reviews all our resolution and ordinances prior to coming to council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you'll be voting on, I gotta find my agenda, where'd it go? There it is. The adoption of a resolution establishing an investment policy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Our next business item, I'd just like to take a pause here for a moment. Jackie Brown is online, and she was online for one of our consent items. And if Jackie, could you turn your camera on? Because this is the last council. Jackie's 2 weeks from retirement, and she will be gone before our next council meeting. So I just wanted to take a moment and recognize Jackie if she'll join us. And is Jackie out there?
She's an attendee.
There she is. There's Jackie Brown. Well, at least her name. Anyway, so I know she's here, and I'd just like to say a few words about Jackie. You know, Jackie has had a very long career in the water industry, and more than 30 years. Exactly how many, Jackie? I know it's more than 30.
Almost 45.
Almost 45. So I was a little light there. And you joined us in 2019, so 5 years ago. And she brought just a wealth of knowledge that has really upped our game in everything we're doing here at the city of Port Orchard. And you know, our drinking water standards and everything she's done has just really elevated our game. And she's shepherded us through the Foster project. I did say multiple times over the last few years that she couldn't retire until Foster was completed, but she has gotten us at least a majority of the way, and there's some things we need to finish to get it wrapped up. But Jackie, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and you will definitely be missed. Yeah, you've just been a tremendous asset to us here at the city, and a pleasure to work with. So,
well, thank you so much, Mayor. I so appreciate that, and it's been, as I've said many times, I have very mixed emotions because I really enjoy working for the city, and I love the people I work with, and it was a tough decision for me, but it's just time. So,
I can respect that, Councilmember Diener.
Jackie, I think you should be very proud that you've been a part of some of the best growth that the city has seen in a long, long time. I really feel like we've turned the tables, and you know, we couldn't have stayed a sleepy town forever, not given where we are on the waterfront and all that. And you've been a big part of helping us mature. So thank you for all your service and your work for the city.
well, thank you.
Dennis, you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, before she jumps off, I wanted to personally thank you, Jackie. You've been a mentor to me. You were part of the process that got to help get me here. And I'm going to miss your guidance, and I'm not going to lose your phone number.
Just doesn't have to answer anymore. Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, Jackie, I've been around a lot of utility people over the last 3 decades, and the quick 6 months that I've been around you, sure been a pleasure. You wear a lot of hats, and you wear them well. So I really appreciate in the quick 6 months that it's been the time that you've given us and your patience and explaining, everything that's new and foreign to us. And I wish you all the best in retirement. You definitely have earned it. So enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Well, thank you, Jackie. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the council meeting, but if you want to get on back to your grandchild, I completely understand.
I think I've been to enough council meetings in my day, so I'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks again, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
Jackie.
you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your indulgence there. I knew Jackie was hanging out there. So we've got a discussion item this evening, and Miss Archer, this is Miss Archer's item, and it's a discussion on a possible city council protocol manual. And she brought us a draft document that she, I think, did for another city. If you read it thoroughly, it had somebody else's name in it. But go ahead, Charlotte.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and this is for today is a conversation about a concept. I want to start there. So there is no recommendation with regards to how the council proceeds. This is merely a jumping off point for a conversation with the council about the concept of what some cities refer to as a protocol manual. Others refer to it as their guiding rules, their principles of conduct. And this takes a variety of forms depending on the agency. But given that the council opened the door with regards to looking at the rules of public comment, I kicked that door open and wanted to suggest to the council the adoption of a potential protocol manual. And when I say that phrase for discussion purposes this evening, what I'm referring to is a document or a manual that advises council members of a variety of facets of their jobs as council and the way in which they interact with the public, with city staff, and with the laws. And I find that these manuals and the added formality that these manuals can afford provides a lot of stability and healthy discourse with the agencies that I've worked with. And the examples in the packet are merely examples. I believe one is from the city of Issaquah, and there are still red lines on that one. There's also one from the city of Bothell. And if you look at the MRSC page that I linked in the staff report, and that staff report can be found at page 89 of tonight's packet. Oh, I thought I linked it. I apologize. It's not linked, but I can email that after this presentation. But MRSC has compiled a long list of the various protocol manuals that are out there that they're aware of. And you'll see there is a significant amount of repeat because cities don't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel. And so the protocol manual that you see from the city of Bothell, which is a council manager city, that format is repeated in a number of cities. They use the exact same form, the same subsections. And obviously a council manager structure is different than our structure. And so those aren't a one-for-one example or one-for-one comparison. But it is a good jumping off point to sort of talk briefly about the different elements of a potential protocol manual. And I'm just going to run through those and then open this up for discussion. So the things that a protocol manual typically include primarily would be general duties and expectations. And so you'll notice in the Bothell example and other examples that it starts with an orienting framework for the laws that govern your job as council members. This is sort of a council handbook mentality that explains to new council members what their roles and responsibilities are at the city and the structure of the city. The second big section would be administrative procedures, which I find can be very helpful for council members new and council members who've been sitting on the council for a long time who may have always had questions about certain aspects of city practices. So the administrative procedures section can tell council members everything from where they pick up their mail to how the email accounts are established to how to communicate with IT when you have device issues. But it can also be more expansive and speak to sort of travel policies, compensation policies, and the overlap with the personnel policies. This year, I recall that Debbie Lund, our HR director, went through the personnel manual and identified specifically the sections of the personnel manual that apply to council members. Because technically in certain facets, you are considered employees of the city when it comes to us counting for certain purposes. But in other facets, you are not employees of the city. And one of the primary ways you are not employees of the city is that the mayor can't discipline you, the HR director can't investigate you. So you are separate from a lot of our procedures, but a lot of our procedures do apply. And so the administrative procedure section of a protocol manual can make that clear for you and can memorialize that moving forward. Then another big section that we find in these protocol manuals is meeting processes. And we've been talking a bit about this over the past few weeks when we were talking about modifications to Title II of the Municipal Code, which has some aspects of your meeting procedures, but not all of them. And then the resolution with regards to public comment. So the meeting processes sections can go through all of the various topics that surround a meeting, and even topics that are related to meetings but that don't come during the meeting. So agenda preparation can be a significant aspect of the protocol manual. I do not believe we have a specific procedure by which items get on the agenda. I believe that they typically come through committee, but many other cities have some form of gatekeeping with regards to managing their agenda. Bothell, for example, council members can request to place an item on the discussion calendar, or the discussion item, but not on the active agenda. And then items can be moved by the full council from the discussion to the active agenda. So establishing procedures for agenda preparation can aid us in ensuring that we aren't having to be reactive when council members have new ideas, and from the staff side. And then as a council member, it can empower you to better understand how you get, whatever legislative agenda you have moved forward, because I think that's a very important aspect of your job. So agenda preparation is a big topic in that subheading. Public comment, as we've discussed, can be another big aspect of the protocol manual. We now have some parameters, or we've had parameters around public comment, but we can add to those in a protocol manual. Whether the concept of whether written comments are read aloud or handed out, the concept of can somebody, speak on behalf of a group. We talked about that aspect. So there's a variety of public comment aspects that are dealt with in these protocol manuals that could add and be sort of a more robust framework. Another area of interest, I think definitely from the staff side, is sort of the different aspects of your agenda, consent calendar versus business calendar. The most efficient and effective agencies that I've worked with utilize their consent calendar in a very robust manner so that you focus your time on the items that warrant and necessitate extensive discussion. But having clear policies related to what goes on consent and how things are pulled from consent can be helpful from a transparency standpoint as new council members come in. Voting procedures is another aspect of meeting processes. Abstentions are an issue under the header of voting that can oftentimes, it can be helpful to have procedures in a protocol manual dealing with how an abstention works, both mechanically and substantively. What I mean by that is, there are times when folks will avoid voting on politically problematic issues as opposed to ones where there is a legitimate conflict of interest. I've never experienced that here, but there are situations where that can occur. So having a policy with regards to abstentions and an expectation of a proof or some sort of statement that clearly identifies why an abstention is warranted. And then even a step further, to the extent the council was interested in a process by which that is adjudicated, not a trial by any means, but is that decided by the chair? Is that decided by city attorney, a variety of approaches are taken. And then substantively, abstentions can be treated as no votes. They can also be treated as yes votes. And a variety of different agencies take a variety of different approaches. And those are typically spelled out either in the rules of the council or in these protocol manuals. Abstention counts as a yes vote, something like that. Another aspect of meeting processes that we've briefly touched on that can be addressed in a protocol manual are quasi-judicial procedures. So I believe at the city, and Nick can correct me if I'm wrong, there are still opportunities where the council would sit in a quasi-judicial posture to hear processes of some sort. Most cities have removed that from their councils and placed that solely in the hearing examiner's lap. But we're finding occasionally random chapters, not necessarily Title 20, where that still does pop up. But there need to be very clear procedures for quasi-judicial processes, because in that setting, you are acting as judges. And so when we have a quasi-judicial matter pending, it means you can't speak to anyone about the topic anywhere at all. And anytime you speak to anyone about it, you have to tell us that you have, and you have to tell us in a meeting. So I'm dramatizing it, but it is that serious. So, you know, having a protocol manual that specifies the process for quasi-judicial procedures can be very helpful as well. And then Robert's rules, you know, we've had our training on Robert's rules, but the protocol manual can allow the council to massage or nuance Robert's rules where necessary. So for example, under Robert's rules, tabling means a very clear thing. And when I started with the city, tabling was used in a different way. And so there are things that we do as an agency that may differ from Robert's rules, not in a problematic way at all, but in a way that would be helpful to memorialize so that we're all working from the same playbook. Another big section, just a couple more I want to touch on of the manual or the protocol manual, can be communications. And this is something that we've had active communication about or conversation about. Communications of council members with the mayor, with staff, communications with the public, when can you and when you can't speak on behalf of the council versus when you need to declare that you're speaking in your individual capacity. Protocol manuals can help guide that. And even communications with each other. You know, we've talked quite a bit about the OPMA issues when you communicate amongst yourselves and serial meetings concerns, but the protocol manual can go into greater detail on that. Public records, along with communications, the way in which the city processes them. You know, one of our to-dos on the staff side is to update the protocols for public records as we do on a regular basis. But they're not written in a way that is designed to, and nor are most, designed to communicate to you exactly how we will need you to help us process public records requests. Primarily that focuses on something referred to as a NISN affidavit. And I believe I've discussed this in the public records training before, but say we were to receive a public records request for all of Councilmember Trineri's emails, we would have to have Councilmember Trineri complete a NISN affidavit, which comes from a case out of Pierce County, where he attests to the search that he performed of his personal devices to the extent he performed a search and to the extent he utilizes his personal devices for city business. So there are steps with regards to public records processing that when we have to be more reactive and we sort of send these affidavits out and you don't expect them, it can take time and it can feel uncomfortable for you. And so if it's in a protocol manual that you clearly understand and clearly anticipate how we are processing, it doesn't feel at all as though it's a targeting effort, which it never is. But it's unfortunately one of the steps that we have to take under the Public Records Act. And then finally, one of the big subjects in these protocol manuals, depending on the city, are council member ethics. And when I say ethics, you know, we've given the training on the statutory code of ethics, which talks about conflicts of interest in contracting, talks about use of your position for personal benefit. and talks about confidential information. And so many cities utilize the protocol manual to just repeat the statutory code of ethics, but then to add sort of a process as far as what happens when a violation occurs. And you've all heard me in my trainings speak to what the consequences are under the statute, which is a $500 penalty and a $1,000 penalty. And those are triggered through an actual lawsuit that's filed against you in your individual or your official capacity. And then ultimately the judge can award $500 or $1,000. So short of actually expecting or anticipating some sort of judicial action, some agencies utilize the protocol manual to say, in the event a violation of the ethics code is identified by a council member, they can bring that matter to, for example, the deputy mayor, who then could consult with the city attorney and then either schedule an executive session or schedule a meeting with the council member involved. And then ultimately the council could vote to censure. That's just a very general example of a very bare bones procedure, but that's something that many cities utilize because statutory ethics violations are not something that is that the statutes provide a process for other than the judicial exercise. The other aspect of ethics codes is that many cities or some cities utilize a far more robust code of ethics that goes beyond the statutory requirements. The city of Ferndale, for example, has a very extensive code of ethics that speaks to not only those statutory aspects of your job, but also has extensive information or expectations about undue influence, for example. The council members, by agreeing to the code of ethics, are committing to refraining from using their official position to secure any privileges or acting in a manner which would cause a reasonable person to conclude that an official has improperly influenced. Using the prestige of the office for personal gain. Under the statute, those would not be violations of the code of ethics, unlikely. But Ferndale has chosen to go further with its expectations. And when I say Ferndale has, I'm again saying the council has, because this is entirely your purview. If you want to go this far, it is entirely up to the council if you wanted to add something like that into a protocol manual. So I'm going to stop there. Those are sort of the high headers of most protocol manuals that I just wanted to touch on and editorialize with the benefits I see with having something like that. I absolutely work with agencies that have nothing like what I've said and have ignored this advice. And that's absolutely fine as well. So this is just a tool that I'm offering from my experience that I do find can bring some benefits to the agency. And we're starting it with just a discussion based on the examples that I've included in the packet and then the MRSC examples. So that the council can have this discussion opportunity. And there's no action tonight. This is merely for discussion.
Oh, I got a question. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. At the bottom, at the bottom, there's a raise hand button, if you can see that.
Anyway, so so what you're saying, we can change the our city council protocol manual. I kind of thought we already had one, but this is up for discussion for us to change it if we want. That's one question. Two is, I thought, when we have an executive meeting, you can't talk at all. And so and it sounds like we got some of the big words on the same thing, but it still means when you're in an executive meeting, you can't talk. And then here's one thing, that if we're doing this, can I change this when it comes to like meetings and all that? I feel like when we have our committees and you have to have a vote for a council member to carry on an issue to go to work study. To me, if you got voted out, that's censorship. And I feel like those work studies are our meetings for council members. And if we're having people to vote you out, we're our small government. we can't, you can't censorship someone. That's illegal, actually. And so I think we should not have, I mean, we let the citizens talk on anything that they want. And so I'm kind of wondering why, as a city council member, if I want to bring something to work study, because I think it's an issue is really important, why should I get voted out that I can't bring that? So those are my questions.
Okay, great. I'll address them in turn, and then we'll go to the next commenter. I know this is your discussion, but those seemed like questions for me, so I'm just going to address the ones I can. So as far as I understand, the council has never adopted a protocol manual. We have Title 2 of the City Council rules, or excuse me, sorry, Title 2 of the Port Orchard Municipal Code that sets forth some of the rules with regards to the meeting conduct. But all of the sort of policy information that we've discussed internally, or the presentations that I've given to you, either come from state law or the municipal code or the personnel manual when Debbie spoke to you about those aspects, the HR director. So this is the idea of a far more robust protocol manual that exceeds what you have in those small areas, the code and state law. And so that this would be a new concept for the council. The executive session conversation, you're correct. The executive sessions are a time when that confidential information statute applies. The thing I was talking about during this conversation where I said you cannot say anything, I was referring to what's known as a quasi-judicial proceeding, which is a different beast. And it is a hearing that the council would hold where you're hearing an appeal of a land use decision, is typically how it is handled. And you sit as a judge. And so when you're sitting in that posture, let's say it's an application for a 300 home development, and you're sitting in that posture, no one from the community can speak to you about that development in advance of that hearing. And that's state law. And if someone stops you at a coffee shop and says, you know, I want to make sure you pass this development, during the hearing, you have to go through a formal procedure where you announce the conversation you've had with as much specificity as you can. And then we go around and we all decide whether or not you need to be disqualified. And it actually comes down to the members of the audience to determine if you are disqualified. So there's very strict protocol for that.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay, perfect. Your last question about the committees, I think that's more of a discussion point for the council, but I just did want to raise the comment about censorship. So the council members, this is your business meeting, and so you are allowed to establish whatever rules you want with regards to the topics that get on the agenda. And I would say from the perspective of having worked with many different agencies, the business meetings function very well when there are steps that allow staff to assist with the topics before the topics are raised. And so, you know, the idea of bringing a concept to a council meeting is oftentimes enhanced by engaging with staff through the form of a process. And that's why we typically see a vote of the council to move something forwards, because you're then spending resources, right? You know, I absolutely understand that citizens can raise issues, but when you are wearing your council hat, you know, as we've discussed, your free speech rights have changed significantly from when you were a private citizen to now as a council member, because your words have a significant meaning, not your rights, but the implications of what you say. Mm-hmm. And so when you speak and you provide direction, the mayor acts, but that typically requires a majority of the council to do that. And so that's why we have these parameters. But again, I think your comments were bigger than that issue, and that's more of a discussion point.
Yeah, because I feel like, I think we as a council should go forward in that, because we all should have an issue. Our study meetings or study sessions are for the council members. And so if someone wants to put that on the agenda.
Heidi, we've heard your opinion on this.
Oh, okay.
The council members with their hands raised.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully we can change that later.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. One, I've been looking at the Gig Harbor policies. And there's a lot out there, as Charlie said. I'm in favor of doing this. I would like to see us kind of not trying to formulate War and Peace, a novel over 400 pages, but try to take small bites of the apple. How we do that, I don't have an idea, but I would like to see us do it a little bit at a time so we don't get bogged down in some minutia. That would be my hope, that we do it a little bit, like I said, a little bit at a time, maybe take a section and go from there. In answer to Heidi's comment, the reason we had a vote in the Utilities Committee whether to bring that item forward was based on past practice on how we've worked at the council. It was certainly not censorship, and the reason being that anything that moves to work study does involve resources of the city, and in some cases there's good ideas that move forward. In some cases, several ideas have dropped off the wayside, and that nothing stops them from being brought up later. Thank you for your time.
Councilmember Diener.
So I concur with what Jay has had to say. I'll start with my last note first. I'm talking about committees. I do understand and respect Heidi's concern. It's a really high bar when you have 3 people and 2 can vote down an idea. But I will say this seems like a standing practice that probably predates maybe all of us here. The other thing that I want to talk about, and when we look at a committee section of this protocol manual, is how we have the agendas and how those are created too. And I expressed my comments on that earlier tonight in the Transportation Committee. I like Issaquah. They've got a training component to their manual. I sure would like to see us do whatever we can to have training that's more dedicated to council than it is to managers and line staff supervisors or directors. That's my pitch for trying to, again, find some training that's dedicated to us. I'm intrigued by the idea of an abstention of vote could mean yes. That's I haven't heard that before, but that's rather intriguing, and I certainly want to talk about abstentions when we get there. But I also, for my personal approach on voting, if somebody's going to vote down or vote no, I would really like to know why they're doing that. And for the most part, we're pretty good, but there's been a few votes over the years where I've been left wondering why somebody voted no because they didn't explain it. And I would like to make sure that the public has a good understanding of why somebody has voted no on a particular issue. So I also like that Ferndale took an extra stab at ethics and voted. I would like to inquire about what that would look like too, because I think that's good. Not using your position for financial gain. I'm surprised that's not in state statute, but I think there were some good examples you read where we should consider what Ferndale has done. And I'll just stop there. I like the idea.
So Councilmember Diener, I can address at least one of the training aspect of it. I brought that as a requirement of our insurance company, and I brought up the because we I'm on that board now, and I brought this up at the board meeting when I was at the AWC conference. And what I learned was we don't have to now. It's convenient for HR to use the same tool to track your training and assign it because it's all automated.
Sure.
Okay. We don't have to do that. I learned just this last week. Actually, what's more relevant in the training is the resources that AWC provides. And we just need to manually track that you took that, attending the annual conference and the sessions that you attended at the annual conference, check the box for your annual training.
A little incentivizing there.
So anyway, you need some form of training, whether it's an online course, and we need to track that. And it doesn't have to be those management driven courses that we've seen. Would we have been our historic practice, and until I had a seat at the table to ask the question, we didn't know.
Good news. Thank you.
Yeah. And, I will, these are your guys' meetings that I facilitate. Okay. And just speaking to our practices, I mean, good of the order at the council meeting is where the council typically says, hey, I've got this idea, or this citizen has brought this concern to me. And then if there's 4 or more council members that want staff resources put to that, then it's typically referred to a committee if that's the appropriate step to do that. Then from committee, it's vetted at a committee. A lot of times goes to a work study. Sometimes, it's something fairly simple, then it goes straight to a business meeting, or it dies in committee, or it doesn't get beyond being brought up in the good of the order. So that, once again, that's what this is about. If we want to change our practices and procedures, it's your guys' meeting. Staff and I are here to facilitate the work that you do. So,
I guess I just want to follow up that something shouldn't die in committee because 2 members were opposed to the idea. That is such a high bar. So especially when we're a council of 7. So when the time comes, I'd like Heidi would like to talk more about that.
Yeah. Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, Charlie, I just kind of want to give an example and stress of what you've been preaching the last 6 months of careful when you talk to the public, like you don't represent the city in that fine line. Because I've come across that when coffee with council, and almost a third of my neighborhood makes up the city. And so people will contact me for quite a few things. Example, in the next few days, I'm going to meet with a developer, and for our community here, but yet it's as a citizen, and I've stressed it on my personal email, it's as a citizen, it's not as a council member, because I don't deal with development. I don't deal with design. I don't have any impact at all as a council member. I'm coming to them as a concern as a citizen. And so thanks for, some of the statements that you've made in the training that you've said, because it really puts it in my head to make sure that I stress that when I speak to certain people, that there's a difference. The citizens might come to me thinking that I'm going to advocate as a council member, but that's not my role. That's not my responsibility. And I don't speak for the city, and I have to separate those. And so I've really made a strong effort to do that. So I appreciate your time on giving us these, the education that you're giving us, so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Rose Pepe.
Thank you for having a second bite at the apple. I just want to also go with Councilmember Diener about the voting. In my previous life, I have seen public officials merely not only not abstain, but merely not say anything, yay or nay, on the when an issue is put to them, which gives them, for lack of better words, deniability that they voted one way or the other. So yes, I would like to continue our practice that when it comes to a vote, that every council member has to have a vote when it goes. Thank you.
Councilmember Trenary.
Okay, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I agree. I think this is a good program to begin and to initiate. I think it eliminates a lot of questions and concerns from that new council members have. Myself, I had that at one time, and I still have questions that a procedural manual such as this would help answer without bothering staff, because we all know that they are overworked as it is, wearing many hats. So I'm completely for this. I did like the Issaquah version. I also would like to explore a little bit more in depth about some of the things Ferndale has done and added to their version. In regards to training, we do have training available through MRFB and AWC. I've taken advantage of quite a bit of it, but I would like to see a little bit more of a training map, if that's possible on the council procedure. The other only concern I really have of this is how we would implement updates and how it would be presented to the council members in a link format or hard copy, but that's water way down the bridge. But ultimately, I'm for beginning this process. Thank you.
Councilmember Fenton.
Yeah. I'm not going to take up staff time. We have designated times when it comes to city council and our work study and then city council. And if there's a work study and there is going to be an idea, I mean, if it wasn't for, I didn't even know you can get voted out on an issue. And if it wasn't for the respect of council member Warren, I wouldn't even be able to talk about fluoride, which I think is a huge issue. And so to get voted out, I say we go forward and we can change that. Because yeah, I'm not going to take up staff time, but if we're already having a study session, and when we did our annual work session, we all got to put in, when we did it in April, we didn't get censorship on that. We all got to put what we wanted to say on that because it was our meeting. Our work studies is our meeting, and we should listen and take value in each other because we want to better our city.
Councilmember Morrissey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Archer. You know, I didn't get a chance. I didn't look at the Bothell one. I took the time to look at Issaquah, and so I'm going to take some time knowing a little more of what we're looking at. Because my initial thoughts were these are great training ideas, and I'm always hearing about our capacity issues within the city. So I don't want to take away from stuff that would take away from getting other good work done, because I think most of this is addressed in that, I think we're calling it chapter 2 of the code, or I can't remember exactly what you called it there, Ms. Archer. But aside from, there was one thing I did pull out that I don't think has been addressed in writing other than verbally from you, Ms. Archer, and that's contact with the media. I did like the Issaquah version that talked about if you have been contacted with media, that you immediately email XYZ email letting the city know. I think that's a great idea, but I think most of this is kind of already addressed. So if we've got the capacity, I guess we can move forward and look at it. But I think most of it, I'm hoping people that, especially at that beginning part that talks about roles and how a city works, I'm hoping you did that homework before you put your name on a ballot. But you know, I can understand where some of that need may be. So I think that's my 2 cents on all that.
Right, Councilmember Chang.
Just had a couple of comments. I'm encouraged by the discussion of ethics. In the past, you may or actually most of you probably don't remember, there was talk of just an ordinance on ethics for council members. And at the time, it was not welcomed. So this is an interesting way to sort of include these sort of standards. For example, as a state employee, we have our own ethics training, which is very, I wouldn't say extensive, but it's annual, and it has 4 parts on it, which is interesting. So this may be something that might be adopted either as a separate ordinance or in a protocol manual like this. I think this protocol manual is actually very exciting, although it also sounds very exhausting. Just reading the Issaquah table of contents, I got a little lost. But what I would suggest is moving forward, maybe council might take a survey of just chapter topics that they would like to focus on first. It sounds like communications is one that's popular, as well as something like ethics. So yeah, I like the idea.
Okay. Councilmember Diener, you wanting a second bite at that apple?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm content to let staff and Charlie work out how we develop a a protocol manual. But what I was hoping to hear is more people weigh in on the Ferndale. I by counting votes, I think there's 3 of us that like that idea. I just would like to make sure that we've got adequate direction for staff and for Charlie, if there's more interest than just the 3 people that have mentioned it.
Here's what I would propose is that it sounds like holistically, this sounds like a journey that you guys want to take. I don't believe there's any urgency to it. We have many times very pressing work I would think when maybe we try to bring something back at September's work study, because we don't have a work study in August. And Charlie's going to need some time. And I would like for you guys individually to email Charlie what your hot buttons are and what you feel, this is going to give you guys some time over the next maybe couple weeks to review this, because there's a lot of material here. What are the elements that you would like to see in a manual for the city of Port Orchard, and put that in an email, maybe to Charlie and myself. Is that a workable plan? And then, our goal is maybe September. It could drift beyond that.
Well, sorry, Mayor, just not to interrupt, but I think the September goal of at least bringing back maybe the framework of the sections based on that feedback. And then there's going to be so many levers that the council could choose to pull. I've heard different approaches to even how things get out of committee this evening. So it will require that you collectively decide what you want in each of those sections. So I do like the idea of prioritizing sections that you want to see, and then we can kind of line up the priorities and bring those, give those
work towards that framework in September. And then with a prioritization based on the feedback that you get. And then from there that we take up, because there's going to be a bunch of chapters to this thing.
Right.
When we start, a little bit at a time, and we, eat this elephant a few bites at a time. I'm going to go to Councilmember Warden next year.
So are you asking us to provide Ms. Archer by September 1? What are
I would hope before then, and maybe in the next couple of weeks to dive into this and read it over the next couple of weeks, and then give her your priorities and what elements you would like to see, hopefully prioritized, so that she can compile all of this and come back in September, because it's going to take her some time to digest everything you guys send to her, to put it into this framework that we're discussing. Does that make sense?
September work study, and then it would be, we bring it to council to adopt it as a policy, or no?
I think we're probably going to do a couple work studies. I think this is because there are so many different levers to pull. Yeah, I'll be merely giving you a framework, and then because this is not one of the areas. There are many times when we're looking for direction from you to, through the mayor, to say staff go do. This is not one of those times, because this is entirely whatever you want to make of it. So it will have to be an interactive process. So
it's a long conversation.
Exactly. Okay. So if you can just, and I'll send out the link to the MRSC page that has the longer list of examples, to the extent you want to look at other examples as well. But just look through those, and maybe high level concepts that you'd like to focus on and prioritize those. Although what Councilmember Morrissey was saying sort of about a poll or some sort of feedback about what are the most high priority topics.
Yeah,
that would be really helpful.
With our biennial budget coming up this fall, we got a heavy lift coming there. I think if we get a framework adopted and an element or two of this done by the end of the year, I think that's success, and this could trail into next year as we wrap this up. Is just being realistic about the process. Councilmember Morrissey.
Yeah, I also would want to clarify what we're going to call this, right? I know in Ms. Archer's report, we're calling it a protocol manual. The city of Issaquah looks like it calls it for rules of procedure. I'd like to further define that too, because I read through that, because I read their entire one. If it's a rule, well, there's nothing in there addressing what happens when you break the rule. right? So I'd like some further clarity of what that looks like and what we're trying to do. Or is this a handbook? Is this a manual? Are these rules?
Yeah. And maybe that's in your email to her, what you think it should be. Councilmember Diener?
So I was just going to ask Charlie, in your prep of miscellaneous similar documents, what would you recommend we read? You have the best feel, I think, for where we are and where perhaps we'd like to go, but what would you recommend we read first and then second and then third?
Let me put that in an email to you.
Okay.
I've read so many now, and there are quite a few that are the same. But I think sticking with cities that are not city manager, that are strong mayor, will help. So Ferndale has a very robust rules of procedure, as we've discussed. And Issaquah, I think Paulsbo even had a decent set. So I'll put that in my email when I send you the MRC link.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Fenton?
Yeah, has there ever been a problem with a manual in the past, even though it's not like official manual, but with city council getting out of line or not following or, you know, doing the protocol? Because I feel like this time around, it seems like we've heard this, I don't know, isn't this like our third time maybe through some of these meetings? So I was just wondering, is there a problem why we're going through so much, or has city council in the past ever had this?
So this city, I can't speak to the historical breadth of the city. Maybe the mayor can weigh in on that. But there has not been an instance that's triggered this conversation. Again, I was merely kicking down the door that you guys opened when you referenced wanting to talk about your rules of public comment procedure, and then amending Title II of the Port Orchard Municipal Code, because those are most of that was from 1975 and hadn't been touched since then. So this is just a modernization suggestion that comes from my experience. And there are agencies where they've had to utilize the code of ethics. Seattle, for example, has an entire ethics board that hears complaints against the council. So, you know, we're nowhere near that. But I find that the added level of formality actually helps our business meetings function better and enables you to perform your jobs better. And so this level of formality is just something I thought might be beneficial to the council. But again, it's entirely up to you if you want to move forward.
And to address in my time, and Fred and I have similar tenures, you know, about 18 years, and the turnover we've had on the city council is the most in my time, in that time frame. You know, we normally have a seat or two that turn over. And so all of this training and the foundational stuff we've been doing is to try to get the three new council members. You know, a lot of times our council members like Fred and myself, Beck Ashby and Mark Trineri, we came from the planning commission. So we had a lot of this Robert's Rules stuff under our belt already, because they conduct themselves that way. The planning, zoning, the code stuff, we were part of that process developing it. You guys have all come in without the same knowledge base so we're just trying to level the playing field for everybody. So we've been spending a lot of time on foundational stuff, and we just haven't had and I'm not saying we need this manual. It's your guys' call whether you want this. This is Charlie brought this forward based on work she's done at other cities. So, Councilmember Rosepepe?
Yeah, question for Charlie. Since John talked about it, whether it's a procedure manual or whatever, we would still have to embed this within our POMC, wouldn't we?
No, you wouldn't have to codify this. So this would be, again, this would be whatever it is that you want it to be. I think, to Councilmember Morrissey's point, there are some cities that have utilized this for the purpose of the council understanding how it polices itself. Because, say, for example, today, someone were to commit a violation of the statute with regards to conflict of interest. Let's say, Councilmember Chineri, or I won't use a specific person, but Councilmember X gets pulled over by a police officer and says, "What are you doing? I'm a council member." There's no mechanism other than a citizen filing a lawsuit to actually police the fact that occurred. But that has adverse impacts for the city. And as I mentioned, the council is the only body empowered to police itself. And so adding a level of formality and making these rules with consequences that the council agrees on, which I've seen those consequences range from exclusion from committee assignments to a waiver of pay for a month. So sorry, I expanded beyond your question.
Yeah,
you don't
did.
have to put it in your code.
Okay, so it could be a standalone document
Correct.
that exists for the operation. Then my follow-up question would be, is there anything that is required in our municipal code regarding the city council operation?
That's a big question. I think you need to have compensation established somewhere. I don't think it actually has to be codified. I think that I do know the rules governing indemnification have to be in the municipal code. So for example, if you were sued for an OPMA violation, whether you get indemnity under the city's insurance policy needs to be in the code. But for the most part, everything can be adopted by resolution as a policy. Okay. But it still would have the teeth that you give it. Thus the tangent I went off on. It would still have consequences if the council chooses to give those consequences.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I just want to make sure that whatever has to exist, within the municipal code does. And if we're creating a separate document that can exist outside, that's fine too. I'm good with that. Thank you.
Yeah, some cities do put it in their code. I think it's pretty rare just because it is something you change pretty frequently. But some put it in their code so it's not lost to time.
Councilmember Rosebay or Morrissey, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I just, it might be serendipitous that we are remote tonight and I'm in my home office. I may just bring to your attention, there is already a City of Port Orchard elected officials handbook that I was given when elected. So I might share that.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's some of the documents that Brandy gives, which would be part of this. So, yeah.
Okay. You guys have an idea what your homework is? Charlie's going to send you something with pertinent documents from cities that are similar to us in their structure, and do some reading, and then reply to herself and to Charlie and I, if you could. And we'll get to work on this and put some effort to it.
And Rob, you had talked about maybe in mid-July for comments.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah,
okay.
Got to Charlie. Does that give you enough time to?
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good timeline. All right, let's jump to our council committee reports. Economic and Development Tourism, I think you gave your report at the last council meeting, so there's no need for a report. Utilities, I see you also meet July 9th. I believe you've given your report.
We did.
Okay. Finance met a week. I think you gave your report. No? Yes? No? Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought you did too. Okay. Transportation, I know you met tonight. So
yeah, I got a quick report. Challenge is always trying to read my own handwriting when I'm taking minutes, but so we had full attendance tonight. We had updates on the Bethel Lund roundabout. Actually, it's going to be a double roundabout. We have secured money for design that would occur in 2028, and Chris indicated with construction starting in about 6 years thereafter, more or less. So that's really good news that we've gotten some money.
Scott, no, we're about 6 years out, not 6 years from the design.
6 years out. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're about 2030, I would think we would hope to go to. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. We talked about some regional mobility grants and talked about miscellaneous projects. One of them is one of the updates we got was to the Lincoln Mitchell Roundabout, and we're targeting July 8th for a start, but that it's hoped to be done by Labor Day weekend so that we're missing the school year impacts on that. The SR 166 Bay Street utility package location has been approved, so that's essentially where utilities would be located underground in the right of way. And then Tremont's project 2 and 3, the consultant was selected for that, BCRA. And then it's got to go to WASDOT for their concurrence or for their review. The Bay Street West situational study, so that's the pathway that goes from the proposed community center up Port Orchard Boulevard. That has been daylighted for outreach now, and the final of that will be reviewed in August. And then the last thing that we gave a nod to that didn't really require action by the council, but we wanted you to be aware of, is we've approved a roadside memorial sign for a victim of a DUI. So I'm sure you've seen these signs around the county or around the state. They're the black and white signs. And it'll be installed near Plisco and Mitchell by the high school. There was an accident there. I'm thinking it was some years ago, but there has been a proposal by a member of the public to have a sign put up, and we felt that was appropriate.
Just one subtle difference there on that pathway west. I think the direction was we were going to bring that to the work study in July and for action, the first meeting in August. And this is a process and project that had multiple touch and public outreach last year. And we're wrapping up that process. And a majority of the elements to this will be built with the community center and the public plazas. There's a piece behind 7-Eleven that's a future project and decisions to be made. And there's a couple alternatives. And then of course going up the boulevard is a future project and discussion too. So these are just concepts and ideas. No designs were put to it. It was just public outreach and the concepts of a pathway getting us from the downtown up to Tremont. And so anyway, that you'll see, all of you guys will see that at the work study in July. Councilmember Trenary.
Yeah, just for clarification, the Bethel and Lund roundabout, Scott, you mentioned it being a double roundabout when in reality it's a 2-lane or double lane roundabout, just for clarity on that. So
yeah, thank you for that. It's a two-lane roundabout.
Yeah, that we're not doing a figure 8 there at all. We're just doing a 2-lane roundabout.
Yeah, I think it was called a double roundabout, but it's similar to what we've got at Tremont.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll look like Tremont. That's right. Okay, thank you for your report. Land use, I believe you gave your report at the last.
We meet this Thursday.
Yep, this Thursday. That's right. But your last meeting report was given, and lodging tax hasn't started yet. Sewer advisory doesn't meet till September. Outside agencies, I guess it kind of fits in this. Last night I gave a presentation to the Public Facilities Board up in Paulsbo. And I think it was well received. I got a number of good questions. Did you talk badly about me after I left, Councilmember Morrissey?
No, they talked badly about me.
Okay.
It was my last meeting, so no, they said great things. They love our project.
Yeah.
After you left, they honored the two of us leaving the board.
Yeah, wonderful. Councilmember Chang?
Yeah, have there been any recent Kitsap Transit board meetings? Because I don't think we've gotten any reports.
There's a meeting every month. There's nothing really been Port Orchard centric. I would say that Monday I attended a ribbon cutting for the new Silverdale Transit Center that's been under construction, a couple years, and 10 years from start to finish on the design. It's fabulous facility, transit going to electric buses. That facility has contact chargers like your cell phone in it to further advance Kitsap Transit's fleet. I did report on the origin and destination study I think earlier in the month or last month. Remember how the ridership on our ferry was the highest ridership. But it's not necessarily, I guess, Port Orchard centric. It's a countywide board.
There are no updates on the transportation center downtown?
Yeah, that's
No,
what I was gonna
they've completely paused that. So it wasn't received well.
Okay, it's still on their website, so I was kind of curious about that too. I just didn't
Yeah,
ask.
they had a
but
grant.
it's still on their site, so
Yeah, they have a grant pending. They had a grant pending, and they through the countywide process, and they pulled their grant application. They've got lots of things going on over at Kitsap Transit. But I would welcome us having further discussion about it. But you guys have
I
got
would too.
going. Yeah. So let's go to the mayor's report. There is, I think it's later this week or it's next week, there is a meeting for the new holiday festival. Dennis will be, I had a conflict on my schedule. Dennis will be handling that and attending that meeting on behalf of the city. I know that when Brandy and I have had discussions with Sam in regards to this, and this is a city, one of the grandfathered events. And what we've discussed is we would continue with our obligations, decorating City Hall, downtown, and the marquee, manage the chimes music for the event, manage traffic control for the event, request the closure of Bay Street, and order and pay for the restrooms. And Sam was receptive and felt that was agreed with those responsibilities from the city. But there is a meeting coming, and Eric, you got your hand raised?
yeah, the meeting's tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and
Okay.
I'll be there. But it'd be nice to see Dennis there as well. Yeah.
Yep. And this I think is going to be a great change to have this supported and ran by the merchants, and us supporting that effort. I think is going to make this event even better. City Hall remodel. Those of us on the second floor started moving in yesterday. Lots of boxes around, and things are a little bit hectic, but it is so nice to be back in our offices. Still a lot to do, so be patient with us. Yeah, Eric brought up a great idea. He emailed me last night to check into the county commissioners' chambers for our meetings. And so I did that today. We're probably going to miss 4 or 5 meetings at tops. The commissioners' chambers would only be available for 2 of those meetings. And the other, they haven't given me an answer yet on this either. It would require county staff they've got different equipment than we do. And so there'd be a cost to that, and they haven't gotten back to me on the cost. I'm a little concerned about being sometimes there, sometimes here. My recommendation would be we stick to this platform, but it is your meeting, and I will take direction from you whether you want me to pursue any further. But it will only be available for 2 meetings up at the county chambers. Jay, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, just because of keeping continuity, I just assume stay on this platform, especially if it's going to be a cost. So I would just say stay where we are. It's only for 5 meetings.
Councilmember Trenary, you got a thought on this?
I would echo those exact thoughts. I don't even think it's 5. I think it's 4, perhaps even 3 meetings total. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're back in regular action. But I think for consistency, I think we should stay with the platform that we're on now.
Yeah, we'll have 3 meetings in July, 2 business meetings, a work study. Because of our summer break, we have 1 meeting in August. And we ought to be, whether it trails 1 more meeting in September yet, if that's so far away in this construction project, I can't answer that, but it'll definitely be July and August, which is 4 meetings. And if it could trail to a 5th, I just hope it doesn't, but you don't want to be up there. The court's not having fun up in our chambers. And this was a good move. Councilmember Shank.
I am neutral on the location, but I am very curious to know what the fee would be in case we ever need to do it in the future.
Okay. I'll get the information. Other thoughts? I'm not hearing a clamoring that you go.
I'm content to maintain this platform for as long as we need.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted to check in. It was a good idea. It was worth looking into. I emailed some criteria for rental assistance. Hope if maybe you had a chance to read it. If you didn't, I'd like some feedback. Noah and I are working on an agreement for KCR, and I'd like to bring that to you, sometime in July, maybe late July. And I know Fred sits on the board of KRCC, or it's not KRCC, KCR. Thank you. And I really want to see this succeed. We've contracted with them twice and they haven't executed. So it's really important that we put these dollars. I know there's a need. And that criteria, I leaned heavily on Heather Blau, the executive director at Housing Kitsap. Likely the majority of these dollars, there's 2 subsidized housing projects in Port Orchard, because these dollars have to be spent in Port Orchard. And one of them is the Heritage Apartments over on Lippert. And that's probably the lion's share of where those dollars would go. And that project, the site is also HUD the residents have a subsidy from HUD. And then we have the Port Orchard Vista, which is the senior apartments there up by Mitchell. And since I sit on the board and I'm currently the chair this year, I do know there is a need, but the residents need to apply, and our partner in this, KCR, needs to deliver on that. So I'm excited that they're saying they have capacity, they can do this, because I'd really like to see it succeed. And I welcome your feedback on that criteria that I sent out, if you've got time to read it. As I'm required to report personnel policy changes to you, and we made a minor update. We had an opening and hired a new associate planner, and anytime we have an opening, we like to review those jobs descriptions and make sure they're relevant to the duties that they're doing today. And so we did that. The AWC conference, yeah.
The county has completed its compensation study countywide. So I think that's been released. So if you're interested in that, you can ask for that.
Okay. AWC conference was last week, and I know John, Heidi, and Eric attended it with me. And I as always, I mean, I've been on the board for 7 years. This was my last meeting being on the board. I think they put on fabulous events. What I thought was really cool that we were asked to facilitate 3 sessions, and it speaks to the talent and the knowledge base that we have here at the city of Port Orchard. Brandy had a session on having good relations between the clerks and the mayor's office. Charlie held a session related to asking the attorney questions, and I was able to participate in or sit in on part of that session, and I was able to was asked to facilitate a discussion with newly electeds, and late that next evening I had dinner with the 3 of you, and when I asked John, I think John said it best when I asked, how are the networking going, what do you learn today, and his reply was, we have first world problems. And I don't know how many times when I go to an AWC event, and I network and talk to other electeds in other cities, and the real serious problems that exist out there, from budget woes to staffing challenges and all kinds of really bad things that, John, you said it well. We have first world problems. We have challenges, but they're first world problems. So any of you want to share anything any takeaways? John,
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I know I had a couple of takeaways. I was going to share them in good of the order, but I'll take the opportunity here. I attended a couple of really great breakouts. One of them was the tax incremental financing. I think there's a lot of opportunity. So staff on this call, let's look into that. Let's get that somewhere on a work study or something we can talk about. I think there's opportunity, especially maybe with Bethel funding, as some of that corridor develops, and how we could benefit as a city from that. I know Eric and I both went to a breakout around. It could take a couple of different ways: a youth advisory council or a juniors. I mean, some places go as far as having a junior city council, where they have folks that sit on a subsidiary of a council. But I think it's important to get that input, as well as the civic implications that it does to leaving the future of our community in a better spot. And then to avoid going on forever, because I could probably, after 3 days, because I love to learn, came back with 2 books from, I'm going to butcher his last name because I never heard him say it, Peter Kagayama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's his last name, but For the Love of Cities and Love Where You Live. I got autographed copies, but he gave some really great just love for your city and love for the spaces that we create. So I would highly recommend.
So, and Dennis, one of the things that we got from his presentation, there's a coating, and I guess the county has it down at the Manchester stormwater facility. You can put it on concrete, and you don't know it's there until it rains. And so you can have, artistic renderings or supportive sayings, or I think, Nick, this is something, I don't know if we have any smooth concrete in our Orchard Street Plaza, but if we do, it's something we ought to look into, or something we do after the fact. It's just a coating that we put on the concrete. It was really cool. So, Councilmember Warden.
Yeah. So referring to that art, 300 days out of the year, you get to see art. So it's pretty cool. It rains a lot, but Manchester Park has it. I didn't really know, to be honest with you, what to expect. I've been to a lot of conferences, and I just went into it open-minded, not really quite sure what to expect. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the strengths and weaknesses that a lot of cities have, and we share a lot of them. There's a lot of similarities that we're going through. Wow, there's some extremes. I mean, there's cities out there that have literally no directors or a mayor. I mean, they have some real troubles. And there's a lot of cities that prioritize things differently as well. But for the most part, I walked away feeling really thankful for the directors that we have in our city. Mayor Rob brought up, our council and like coffee with council, and he described how we're doing that, and that created some conversation. And then we discussed Miss Archer. I went to her training, and that was phenomenal. It was you're encouraged to ask a lot of questions. She went up there and said, "We presented nothing. We are here for questions." And they filled them. They filled the whole thing full of questions. And I learned quite a bit. I learned quite a bit about numerous clients that they have, that she represents, and their opinions on her, which are all positive, and her firm, which are all positive. I learned a lot. There's city managers, city administrators. I learned a lot about them, talking to them, because they were present as well. So it was a full, I didn't expect this either. It was a John and myself were like, when are we going to eat? Because it is morning to night, but it went really quick, and we divided and conquered. We divided up and went our own ways. And shared our info later on that evening, and it's great. That's a fantastic organization. 281 cities and towns, and I don't think any city or town is not in the AWC.
Correct.
That's saying a lot. So I thank the city of Port Orchard for sponsoring us to go there. That was fantastic. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Councilmember Fenton?
Yeah, wasn't it like 450 people that went to this conference? I always had I was positive going into it, but yes, it exceeded my expectations even more. The networking and meeting city council members all around the state, meeting mayors, and it was really good. They organized it very well. I got that book too, Love Your City, and he signed it too there, John. But no, it was, it was just very well. And actually, even as a city council person, what I learned personally on my own is the value I have as a city council member, as a group, as a city council member, we have a lot that we can offer our city, and how we can really vitalize it even more and just help our citizens. And just, I don't know, it was just very positive, and I came away feeling very good.
Yeah. Your next opportunity with AWC is Action Days, February-ish. So watch for that. And there's all kinds of online training opportunities too. Okay, my last item on my mayor's report is Derek Kilmer is an important person, and we want him at John Clausen's event. And he said, I can't make the 19th, so it has been moved to 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 17th, same location in front of the library. I included you guys in an email. It's just to celebrate John's 41 years of service and unveil a plaque that's going to be placed out in front of the library. So hope to see you there. On to our director's reports. So Deputy Chief Brandon, do you have anything to share?
We've got some new hires going on. We just had one start yesterday, lateral from Hampshire. We have one graduating on Thursday from the academy, and we had one start at the academy this week. So we're moving people around and working on it. So we're getting there.
Thank you for the update. Mr. Ryan. You're muted. I know you're new to this new Zoom thing.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is my first meeting in 9 months where I didn't have any business items, so that was kind of nice. I did get some clarification. Every operations vehicle has a 5-gallon spill kit in it, so we are covered there. I just want to report on our reorganization of the Public Works operation crew. I am happy to say by the end of this week, we should have every candidate named in the positions that were applied for. There's one position that we did not get any applicants, but huge kudos to both Beth and Debbie and HR. It's been a great process. We've got some great internal candidates that are stepping up into new roles. I've had the opportunity to talk to one candidate who will be one of our new lead workers today about continuous improvements and big changes that they can make for the organization. So very exciting stuff, and thanks for the support in making that happen. Thank you.
Thanks for your report, Dennis. Mr. Bond?
Yes, I've got a few announcements tonight. First of all, as part of the comprehensive plan project, we are preparing 2 sub-area plans, one for the Bethel Lund Center and one for the Bethel Sedgwick Center. And these draft plans are coming into shape, and we are going to be holding a public workshop on July 24th at 6 p.m. And because of the City Hall construction, we are using the library's meeting room. And so that meeting will take place at our library down on the waterfront. If any council members want to attend, please let Brandy and I know so that we can notice the event for a quorum. Next, speaking of the comprehensive plan and your desire to update your council policies. Mayor, you mentioned that you would have budget in the fall. You're also going to be reviewing all 10 chapters of the comprehensive plan, which have to be adopted in December. So I think between budget and comp plan, you're going to be pretty busy, and just wanted to make note of that. The other project I wanted to announce, if you haven't heard this through KRCC already, the jurisdictions in Kitsap County are working together on an accessory dwelling unit project. And we have decided to use some extra budget that KRCC has to prepare some basic plan sets so that anyone who wants to build an accessory dwelling unit on their property can go pull a plan off the shelf that is licensed for their use within the county and doesn't have to pay to use that plan. And so the KRCC is going to be issuing an RFQ here in the near future to select an architect or architects to design some ADU plans. And right now we're aiming to get 8 different plan sets with 2 elevations each so that you can have different roof lines to choose from. And the plans, one of them will be an accessible plan, so it's ADA accessible. 4 of them will be ADU units that do not include any garage space, and then 3 of them will be units above garages. There's a plan for a 2-car garage and one for a 3-car garage that would have an apartment above it. And so the idea is that it's pretty expensive for a property owner to hire an architect to design an accessory dwelling unit. And by coming up with some basic plans that anybody in the county can use, it will hopefully encourage their development. And so if you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them, but I just wanted to let you know that that is being worked on right now. I believe that each city is contributing a small amount to this, nothing that doesn't fit within our budgets, but it's I think together we're going to get a good result that individually this may be a little bit too big for each of us to pull off. Next, the Economic Development Committee meeting in July is canceled, and so you should have received a cancellation notice already. I just wanted to make note of that because we are short-staffed, and we could choose to schedule another date or just hold the August meeting. My recommendation right now is to skip the July meeting and just hold one at our regular date in August. And that is all.
Okay. Ms. Archer?
Thank you. Just very briefly, just to let you know, the grants pass decision is expected this week. And so as soon as that comes out, I will send a copy of that around to the council and we can discuss policy modifications or the implications of it at our next council meeting. So look for that, probably Friday.
Okay, Mr. Crocker.
Nothing further tonight from me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wallace.
All right, I'm gonna try and, oh, let me mute. Hold on.
We heard you. Brandy's and Janine are up at the front counter. Put the Zoom.
Okay, there's just some feedback here, so let me see here. I'm trying to see if, can you guys see me? Is the camera on?
Yeah, we got a little bit of feedback, but you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna show you, I was gonna move this setup to see if you can see. There is the camera for the public. And then there's the chairs. And then obviously the front door. So it's a pretty cool setup thanks to IT and Public Works.
Is that a kiosk that people can log into or?
No.
No, it's our Zoom cart from the council chamber.
Okay.
That we moved down to the lobby because we had to store it someplace anyway. So
Okay.
this enabled us to just utilize it down there, and that's where we're going to store it during the second floor remodels or third floor remodel. Sorry. So
And it's a glass panel that you can see through. So I'm behind the glass panel.
That's the stop in the next week or two and check out as we're moving in, and the glass has been installed because we're waiting on some furniture that isn't going to come until July, unfortunately. So and Noah's desk got broken in storage, and so it was 23 years old, but he was emotionally attached to it, and right now he has a card table. for a desk. So until we figure out his needs. So
Where do we send condolences?
yeah, it's working. So Mr. Crocker, what do you have for a staff report?
I don't have anything again. Thank you.
You know, but you had a heavy lift because all the business items were you. So
yeah.
All right, that is it for director's reports. Citizen comments. Is there anybody out there, Brandy?
No one in person and no one online.
All right. Now we're to the good of the order. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, some of this might be old because we skipped go to the order last council session. We had I'm sure a lot on our mind that night. So I kind of want to start off with Deputy Chief Andy Brandon, and I just want to tell him congrats on being on school board. I think it's really special that we have law enforcement on our school board, and he's a perfect example to be on there. So congratulations to him. We had the senior parade that we held, and I really want to thank Director Ryan for all his efforts. He made sure Orchard Boulevard was cut, which made it much more easy for the vehicles and picking up any trash and all that. He didn't have to do that, go that extra step that day, and he did, and it made a big difference. So I want to really thank Director Ryan for doing the small steps like that. Chief Brown, the police, my goodness gracious, not only did they lead off the parade and show the citizens that, you know, the police department's there to support them, but they also stepped up in a situation and handled it perfectly. That could have been much worse, but they handled it right away. It was just a citizen who kind of got out of control a little bit. But and Brandy, I want to thank you so much for helping us along the way, because you really it's a big job to try to organize an event like that, and you continue to help us and guide us, and I want to thank you for that. So
Eric, I want to add that it was my first opportunity to put some kids and a pool in the back of my truck for the parade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And so
it was.
It's definitely a team effort. It costs a lot of money for us to do it, but man, I really appreciate all the departments that kick in and do their part, and Director Ryan, all you guys. It really shows that you care. There's a difference between leading a department and actually having a feel for the community and doing those things. And it just takes one event to see everyone coming together and doing their part to make it special. And it was terrific. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you for that, Eric, and that acknowledgement of the effort the staff goes to. You know, these festivals are so important to the fabric of our community, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that they happen, you know, safely, and everybody has a good time. And so thank you for that. Councilmember Diener.
So I want to second all that Eric had to say, and you as well, Mayor. Good of the order. I want to note that I thought I might be out July 6th, Saturday, for Coffee with Council. I am indeed out of town, as well as I think for the next couple Saturdays, first Saturdays of the month thereafter. But so I'm looking for somebody to fill in for July 6th. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah.
Heidi can do it, or I can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah,
or
we'll cover
John's got his hand up too.
Yep.
Okay, just
good.
coordinate that with Brandy to make sure we know who's going and we don't have more than 3. So
Okay, and then the next thing I wanted to talk about real briefly is I recall when we were doing Zoom meetings regularly that we were asked to raise our hands during a vote so that there was clarity in what was done. And I guess I wanted to remind people that we should probably fall back to that again. So
yeah, not the raise your hand feature. That's a good call, Scott. That a hand signal. That is a good. We're rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Fenton.
Oh yeah, good of the order. This coming Saturday is the the Fathom Fun Parade. And so the parade's at 6 o'clock. And so that will be great for the community. And then isn't the Bridge Blast this Saturday too, I believe. So there's going to be some fun things happening downtown.
Yeah. So wave at me at the parade. I'm number 3 in the parade. Order.
Number 3, I'm going to be on the Port Orchard.
Well, I'll
Rotary.
be in my little car with my with my doodle. So, all right, Councilmember Rosapepe.
Yeah, a couple of things for good of the order. One is just a reminder for folks that watch this after the fact that if you haven't registered to vote, the primary election is upcoming, so please contact the Kitsap County Auditor. It is an election year. Second of all, July 5th, if anybody's interested, at 7 a.m., I'll be buying coffee down at Coffee Oasis and then hitting, doing a little bit of cleanup to see what the 4th of July really brings to the city of Port Orchard after the fact. And so let me know if you're interested. And the last thing is, for the last 3 years, we've done decorating the Christmas tree downtown, and I'm looking for another council member to take it over so I can clear that out of my attic. So let me know if you're interested. Thank you.
Can I ask what, Jay, can you decorating the Christmas tree? What exactly?
He's referring to the council chips in and buys one of the trees that are in the planters downtown. And it's the council's Christmas tree, and then somebody or multiple somebodies goes down and decorates that tree.
You can hand that off to me, Jay. I'm new. I'll take over.
I'll be more than glad to bring it over this week.
There we go. All right.
And I'm happy to help decorate when the time comes.
Okay, and at some point there, you guys will be passing the hat around to, and I think it's $75 or something like that is the cost. So, all right, anything else?
Oh, oopsie. Oh, where's my hand?
That's
Down
okay.
here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, well, this is our last little kickoff for the Port Orchard Rotary for the Givens. And so we're going to be out there, and, we're partnering, of course, with the city, and we're going to have a barbecue there, free hamburgers and hot dogs for the public from 12 to 2.
Awesome. I saw that. I wish I could attend.
Oh, yes.
What day is that, Heidi? What day is that?
This coming Saturday for the parade from 12 to 2.
Yeah. Lots of things going on.
Yeah.
All right. With that, our meeting is adjourned. We'll see you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.